Hey everyone, Elizabeth here. The Last Laugh delivers stories that leave you speechless. If you're here for it, hit subscribe and let's go.
The envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning. Certified mail. I signed for it at my downtown office. The one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, the one my family didn't know existed. Inside was a legal brief. 47 pages of accusations, demands, and what my uncle's law firm clearly thought was an open-and-shut case. The defendant, Alexandra Marie Thornton, possesses no assets of value, no legal expertise, and no legitimate claim to the disputed inheritance. Summary judgment is recommended. I read it twice. Then I called my attorney. They filed, I said simply. Marcus Chen's voice was calm. I saw. They're moving fast. My uncle's representing them. Dad, Mom, and my brother jointly. Family attorney against family member. Classic. He paused. Alex, are you sure you want to do this? We can still settle. Walk away clean. I looked at the framed Forbes cover on my wall. The one they didn't know about yet. I'm sure, I said. Let them come. Growing up, our family had a simple hierarchy. Tyler was the golden child and I was useful when needed, invisible otherwise. Tyler got the college fund. I got community college and student loans. Tyler got the car at 16. I got bus passes. Tyler got introduced as our son, the future lawyer. I got introduced as Alexandra. She's here too. Dad owned Thornton Manufacturing, a mid-sized industrial parts company he'd inherited from his father. Nothing glamorous but profitable. Steady. The kind of business that paid for private schools and country club memberships. Mom ran the social calendar like a military operation. Charity galas, foundation boards, yacht club committees. Appearances mattered more than anything else. And Tyler? Tyler was being groomed to take over everything. Law school at Georgetown. Internship at Uncle Richard's firm. Partnership track by 28. I was the backup plan nobody wanted to use. When I was 17, Dad sat me down for what he called a realistic conversation about your future. You're not stupid, Alex, he said, which was his version of a compliment. But you're not Tyler. You don't have his drive, his connections, his presence. Mom nodded from the doorway. We think you should consider something practical. Maybe paralegal work? You could work at Richard's firm. Answer phones, file documents. I want to go to law school, I said quietly. Dad actually laughed. Sweetheart, law school costs money we've allocated elsewhere. Tyler's education is an investment. Yours would be expensive. Translation. Tyler was worth investing in. I wasn't. I worked 3 jobs through community college. Graduated with a 4.0. Applied to law schools that offered full scholarships for exceptional students from underrepresented backgrounds. Got into 7. Accepted the offer from Northwestern. Told my family at Sunday dinner. That's in Chicago, Mom said like I'd announced I was moving to Mars. Full scholarship, I added. Including living expenses. Dad frowned. And you think you can handle that? The competition? The workload? I'll manage. Tyler smirked. Northwestern's good. Not Georgetown good, but respectable for someone like you. Someone like me. Not someone like him. I left for Chicago 3 months later. They threw me a goodbye party that lasted 40 minutes. Tyler's graduation party the year before had been a 3-day event with 200 guests. Law school was brutal. It was also the first place I'd ever felt like I belonged. I clerked for Judge Patricia Morrison during my 2L summer. She was a legend. Former federal prosecutor, brilliant legal mind, zero tolerance for mediocrity. You're good, she told me after I drafted a particularly complex memorandum. Better than good. You think 3 moves ahead. Thank you, Your Honor. Stop thanking me and start believing me. She leaned back in her chair. What do you want to do after graduation? Honestly, I want to build something. Not just practice law, build something that matters. She studied me for a long moment. Come back tomorrow. I want to introduce you to someone. That someone was David Brennan, founder of Brennan Legal Technologies. He'd revolutionized legal research software and was now building an AI-powered contract analysis platform. Judge Morrison says you're exceptional, he said at our coffee meeting. I need someone who understands both law and technology. Someone who can bridge the gap. I graduate in a year. Then you'll start in a year. Chief Legal Officer. Equity stake. Help me build this. I didn't tell my family. What was the point? They'd either dismiss it as fantasy or find a way to diminish it. Instead I worked. Graduated top of my class. Passed the bar on my first try. Started at Brennan Legal Technologies the following Monday. Within 2 years our platform was being used by 60 of the top 100 law firms in the country. Within 4 years we'd gone public. My equity stake was suddenly worth $87 million. I bought a penthouse downtown. Hired a financial advisor. Started angel investing in other legal tech startups. I still drove a modest car. Wore suits from Nordstrom, not custom designers. Kept my office professional but understated. My family saw what I wanted them to see. Their daughter who'd done okay with some tech job in Chicago. They had no idea I was profiled in TechCrunch as one of the legal tech innovators reshaping the industry. They didn't know I'd been invited to speak at the American Bar Association's annual conference. They certainly didn't know about the Forbes feature being prepared. My grandmother, Dad's mother, was different from the rest of them. She'd built her own successful career as a patent attorney before women were common in the field. Sharp mind, sharper tongue, zero patience for pretense. We'd stayed close even after I moved to Chicago. Phone calls every Sunday. Visits when I could manage them. Your father's raising Tyler to be entitled and you to be invisible, she told me once. Don't let either define you. I won't, Grandma. Good. Because I'm leaving you something that matters. Not money, though there's that too. I'm leaving you proof that you were always worth investing in. She passed away suddenly in March. Heart attack in her sleep. She was 84. The will reading was scheduled for 2 weeks later. I flew home for the funeral. My family was polite, distant. Like I was a distant cousin they vaguely remembered. We weren't sure you'd make it, Mom said at the reception. Your job must keep you so busy. I made it. Tyler barely acknowledged me. He was too busy networking with Dad's business associates, playing the grieving grandson. The will reading was intimate. Immediate family only. Uncle Richard presiding as executor and family attorney. He read through the standard bequests first. Charitable donations. Gifts to longtime employees. Then, to my grandsons and granddaughter. Tyler leaned forward. To Tyler James Thornton, I leave my collection of first edition legal texts, valued at approximately $45,000, and my best wishes for a career built on substance rather than surname. Tyler's jaw tightened. To Alexandra Marie Thornton I leave the following. My entire investment portfolio, currently valued at $12.3 million. My property at 847 Lakeshore Drive. All rights and royalties to my published works and patents. And my absolute confidence that she will use these resources with the intelligence and integrity she has always demonstrated. The room went silent. Dad spoke first. There must be a mistake. Uncle Richard's voice was careful. There's no mistake, James. Your mother was very clear. She updated this will 6 months ago. Had it reviewed by independent counsel to ensure it was ironclad. She left Tyler $45,000 in old books, Mom said, her voice rising. And she left her $12 million? Plus property, Uncle Richard added. Plus intellectual property rights worth approximately $3.2 million in ongoing royalties. Tyler stood up. This is insane. Grandma was clearly suffering from dementia or undue influence or... Your grandmother was evaluated by 3 independent physicians in the months before her death, Uncle Richard interrupted. All confirmed full cognitive capacity. And before you suggest undue influence, Alexandra had no knowledge of these provisions until today. All eyes turned to me. I'd been sitting quietly trying to process what I'd just heard. You knew about this, Dad accused. I didn't. My voice was steady. Grandma and I were close, but she never mentioned specifics. Close, Mom repeated bitterly. You called her every Sunday to manipulate her into... That's enough, Uncle Richard said firmly. The will is legal, properly executed, and unambiguous. Alexandra is the primary beneficiary. This meeting is concluded. 3 weeks later they sued me. Thornton et al. V. Thornton. The complaint alleged undue influence, lack of testamentary capacity, and elder abuse. They wanted the will voided. They wanted their rightful inheritance restored. Uncle Richard was their attorney. The same man who'd executed Grandma's will was now trying to overturn it. The irony wasn't lost on me. The legal brief arrived at my Chicago office. 47 pages of character assassination masquerading as legal argument. The defendant isolated the deceased from her family, manipulated a vulnerable elderly woman, possesses no assets of value to justify such an inheritance, clearly exercised undue influence for personal gain. Dad's text came an hour later. Your uncle is the plaintiff's attorney. This will be over quickly. Settle now and we'll let you keep $500,000. Fight us and you'll get nothing. I called Marcus Chin. They're demanding I settle for $500,000 of my own inheritance, I told him. Are you going to? What do you think? I heard him smile. I think we should file our response. And Alex? I think it's time they knew exactly who they're dealing with. Marcus Chin wasn't just my attorney. He was a partner at Morrison & Wells, one of Chicago's most prestigious litigation firms. We'd met at a legal tech conference where I'd been a keynote speaker. Your family assumes you're still the invisible daughter, he said at our strategy meeting. They have no idea you're the CTO of a company that just hit a $2.1 billion valuation. They don't know about your patents, your speaking engagements, your investments. They never asked. Their mistake. Here's what we're going to do. He laid out the strategy. We'd file a comprehensive response demolishing their claims. We'd include my grandmother's medical records proving full capacity. We'd provide the independent legal reviews confirming no undue influence. And then, the part that made me pause, we'd establish exactly who I was. The Forbes feature, Marcus said. When does it publish? Next month. Power Women in Law. 30 Innovators Reshaping Legal Tech. Perfect. We'll subpoena the senior legal editor to authenticate it. Establish your credibility as a legal professional. Show the court and your family that Grandma's faith in you was completely justified. That feels like overkill. Alex, they're claiming you're an opportunistic fraud who manipulated a dying woman. We're going to prove you're a self-made multimillionaire who didn't need a single dollar of that inheritance. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for June 15th. Cook County Circuit Court. Judge Catherine Reynolds presiding. I flew in the day before. Stayed at my penthouse. Reviewed the case files until midnight. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Older. Wood paneling and fluorescent lights and that particular smell of old paper and recycled air. My family sat on the plaintiff's side. Dad in his best suit. Mom in Chanel. Tyler looking like he just stepped out of a Brooks Brothers catalog. Uncle Richard at the counsel table, organizing documents with practiced efficiency. They didn't look at me when I entered. Marcus and I sat at the defense table. He wore a charcoal Tom Ford suit. I wore navy Armani. Professional. Unshakable. Judge Reynolds entered. We rose. Please be seated. We're here for preliminary motions in Thornton et al. V. Thornton. Counselor Richard Thornton representing the plaintiffs. Marcus Chin representing the defendant. Mr. Thornton, you filed a motion for summary judgment. Uncle Richard stood. Yes, Your Honor. The facts are straightforward. The defendant isolated our mother from her family during her final years. She made phone calls every Sunday that excluded other family members. She visited without informing us. She clearly exercised undue influence over a vulnerable elderly woman. The defendant called her grandmother, Judge Reynolds said dryly. That's evidence of affection, not manipulation. The defendant has no assets, Your Honor. No legitimate reason to receive an inheritance of this magnitude. She works in some capacity at a technology company. Chief Technology Officer, Marcus interrupted, standing. At Brennan Legal Technologies. A publicly traded company with a current market capitalization of $2.1 billion. Uncle Richard's expression flickered. That's irrelevant too. It's completely relevant, Marcus continued. The plaintiffs claim Miss Thornton needed this inheritance. That she manipulated her grandmother for financial gain. Yet Miss Thornton's personal net worth substantially exceeds the contested inheritance. Dad leaned forward, whispering urgently to Uncle Richard. Judge Reynolds raised an eyebrow. Mr. Chin, you're claiming your client is independently wealthy? I'm claiming she's a self-made millionaire who built her career through intelligence, hard work, and innovation. The very qualities her grandmother celebrated by naming her primary beneficiary. Your Honor, this is theatrics, Uncle Richard protested. The defendant may have some job in Chicago, but... Some job. Marcus opened his briefcase. Your Honor, I'd like to submit Ms. Thornton's financial disclosure. She's required to file it as an officer of a public company. It's public record. He handed documents to the bailiff, who passed them to the judge. Judge Reynolds reviewed them. Her eyebrows rose. Miss Thornton, is this accurate? Your equity stake in Brennan Legal Technologies is worth $87 million. I stood. As of last quarter's valuation, yes, Your Honor. The courtroom went dead silent. I could feel my father's stare burning into the side of my face. She's lying, Tyler blurted out. This is fabricated. Mr. Thornton, Judge Reynolds said sharply. You'll remain silent unless called to testify. Uncle Richard was scrambling. Your Honor, even if these documents are authentic, they don't address the core issue of undue influence. They address the issue of motive, Judge Reynolds interrupted. You're alleging Miss Thornton manipulated her grandmother for money she clearly didn't need. Perhaps she's greedy. Perhaps. Your Honor, Marcus said, I'd like to call our first witness, to establish Miss Thornton's professional reputation and credibility. Judge Reynolds nodded. Proceed. Marcus turned to the gallery. We call Ms. Jennifer Rodriguez, senior legal editor at Forbes magazine. The courtroom doors opened. A woman in her 50s entered. Elegant gray suit. Confident stride. She carried a leather portfolio. Dad's face went pale. Mom gripped the armrest of her chair. Tyra looked like he might be sick. Because they recognized her. From television. From magazine covers. From the legal world they pretended to understand but never actually inhabited. Jennifer Rodriguez took the stand. Swore her oath. Marcus approached. Ms. Rodriguez, can you please state your position? I'm the senior legal editor at Forbes magazine, where I've worked for 17 years. I oversee our coverage of the legal industry, including our annual features on influential attorneys and legal innovators. And are you familiar with the defendant, Alexandra Thornton? Very familiar. I interviewed Ms. Thornton extensively for our upcoming feature. Power Women in Law. 30 Innovators Reshaping Legal Tech. Marcus handed her a document. Is this the article? She reviewed it. Yes. This is the pre-publication proof. It features Ms. Thornton on pages 47 through 52. Can you summarize why Ms. Thornton was selected for this feature? Jennifer smiled. Ms. Thornton is the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Brennan Legal Technologies, which has revolutionized contract analysis and legal research through AI integration. She holds 7 patents in legal technology. She's spoken at the American Bar Association Conference, the Legal Tech Summit, and Harvard Law School's Innovation Forum. She's also an angel investor who has funded 12 legal tech startups, 8 of which are now profitable. She paused. Ms. Thornton represents the intersection of law and technology. She's not just practicing law, she's reshaping how law is practiced. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. Marcus turned to Uncle Richard. Your witness. Uncle Richard stood slowly. He looked shaken. Ms. Rodriguez, isn't it possible that Ms. Thornton exaggerated her accomplishments during your interview? No. You sound very certain. I am. Forbes fact-checks extensively. Every claim Ms. Thornton made was verified through independent sources. Her patents are public record. Her company's SEC filings are public. Her speaking engagements are documented. This isn't puffery, Mr. Thornton. This is a documented track record of exceptional achievement. Uncle Richard sat down. Judge Reynolds looked at the plaintiff's table. Mr. Thornton, does your side wish to call any witnesses to refute this testimony? Uncle Richard conferred with Dad in urgent whispers. Finally, no, Your Honor. Then I'm ready to rule. Judge Reynolds removed her glasses. The motion for summary judgment is denied. Furthermore, based on the evidence presented today, this case appears to lack merit. Your Honor, Uncle Richard began. I'm not finished. The plaintiffs have alleged undue influence and manipulation. Yet the defendant has demonstrated she's a highly successful professional with substantial independent wealth. She had no financial motive to manipulate anyone. Judge Reynolds looked at my family. Frankly, this looks less like a legitimate will contest and more like disappointed heirs upset about an unexpected inheritance distribution. That's not grounds for litigation. He turned to me. Miss Thornton, I'm inclined to dismiss this case with prejudice. However, I'll give the plaintiffs 24 hours to voluntarily withdraw. If they don't, I'll issue my ruling and consider sanctions for bringing a frivolous lawsuit. The gavel came down. We walked out of the courtroom into the hallway. My family was already there. Waiting. Dad approached first. His face was red. You lied to us. I never lied. You never asked. You let us think you were some low-level employee. I let you think what you wanted to think, I said calmly. Every Sunday when I called Grandma, I could have called you too. I could have shared my achievements, my promotions, my patents. But why would I? You made it clear years ago that I wasn't worth your investment. That Tyler was the future and I was useful when needed. Mom's voice was shaking. We're your family. You're my relatives. There's a difference. Tyler stepped forward. The Forbes article, the patents, the speaking engagements. You did all that to spite us. Actually laughed. Tyler, I did all that despite you. Despite being told I wasn't smart enough. Despite being told law school was too expensive to waste on me. Despite every dismissive comment and every time I was introduced as the lesser child. Your grandmother's will. Grandma's will was her choice. She left her estate to someone who reminded her of herself. Someone who built something meaningful. That wasn't about punishing you. It was about rewarding merit. Uncle Richard approached, briefcase in hand. We'll be withdrawing the lawsuit. Smart choice. This isn't over, Alexandra. Marcus stepped forward. Actually, it is. And if your clients attempt any further legal action, we'll countersue for malicious prosecution, emotional distress, and damage to Ms. Thornton's professional reputation. The sanctions alone would bankrupt all three plaintiffs. He handed Uncle Richard a business card. Morrison and Wells. We specialize in high-stakes litigation. Tell your clients to move on. The Forbes article published 6 weeks later. The cover featured 5 women, each representing a different aspect of legal innovation. I was third from the left. Navy suit. Confident smile. The caption read, Alexandra Thornton, 32, CTO of Brennan Legal Technologies. 7 patents. $87 million net worth. Reshaping contract law through AI. The article itself was comprehensive. It detailed my journey from community college to Northwestern. My work with Judge Morrison. The founding of Brennan Legal Technologies. My investment portfolio. My speaking career. There was a photo of me at the Harvard Law School Innovation Forum. Another of me in our company's server room, explaining our AI architecture to visiting senators. And near the end, a quote from Judge Patricia Morrison. Alexandra Thornton represents the best of what legal innovation can be. She's brilliant, ethical, and absolutely committed to making the law more accessible. Her grandmother would be extraordinarily proud. I had the magazine shipped to my family's address. Didn't include a note. Didn't need to. I'm in my office when my assistant buzzes. Miss Thornton? Your father is here. He doesn't have an appointment. I pause. Send him in. Dad enters. He looks older. Tired. He's wearing a standard business suit, not the expensive custom ones he used to favor. Alexandra. Dad. He doesn't sit. Just stands there uncomfortable in the space I've built. I saw you won the Legal Innovator of the Year award, he says finally. 3 months ago, yes. Congratulations. Thank you. Silence stretches between us. Your mother and I, we're divorcing. I nod slowly. I'm sorry to hear that. Tyler's firm let him go. Ethics violation. Apparently he was overbilling clients. Dad's voice is hollow. Uncle Richard is facing a bar complaint for the lawsuit. Conflict of interest, pursuing frivolous litigation. I didn't file that complaint. I know. One of his former clients did. Said if he'd do that to his own niece, imagine what he'd do to strangers. Dad finally sits. I came to apologize. Okay. That's it? Just okay. What do you want me to say, Dad? That I forgive you. That we can start over. I lean back in my chair. You taught me I wasn't worth investing in. That Tyler was the golden child and I was the backup plan. You sued me for an inheritance I didn't need because you couldn't accept that Grandma saw value in me. You never did. I was wrong. Yes. You were. Is there any chance we could rebuild? I consider this. Really consider it. Maybe, I say finally. But it would require you to actually know me. Not the daughter you assumed I was. The person I actually am. And that would require effort. Genuine interest. A complete reset of expectations. I'd like to try. Then start by reading the Forbes article. Actually reading it. Then read the TechCrunch profile. Then look at my patents. Learn who I actually became while you were busy being disappointed I wasn't Tyler. Dad stands. I'll do that. And Dad? If you do reach out again, it's because you want a relationship with me. Not because you want access to my success. Not because you're hoping for investment in your business. Not because you want to tell your friends your daughter is in Forbes. Me. The actual person. Understood. He leaves. I don't know if he'll follow through. Honestly, I'm not sure I care. Because I've learned the most important lesson Grandma taught me. Family isn't about genetics. It's about who shows up. Who believes in you. Who invests in your potential even when it's not convenient. I have that family. They're my business partners. My mentor. My chosen circle. And if my biological family wants in, they can apply like everyone else. No special treatment. No assumptions. Just merit. The way it should have been all along.